I wanted to start off and talk a bit about the journey that brought us here and why Web3 matters. Uh, a lot of us have been greatly, our lives have been greatly improved by computing. It's very difficult to imagine a world without computers nowadays. Most of our interactions happen over the internet in some way. We are merging with our phones in a sense. We have all kinds of devices assisting our thought all the time. Our brains and our memories are melding with the internet. We can think of things like Wikipedia and so on as part of us. So it's difficult. It's becoming difficult for us to imagine operating as humans without computing at all. And so Web3 is part of the evolution. It's an evolution of the internet, and it's a shift and improvement that is coming to the network to bring certain kinds of values and properties to add to the web and to add to the internet. So a lot of the thinking that led to building Filecoin started off by a reflection on what computing has done for us. So in the last 80 years, computing has dramatically transformed humanity. We have come to have superpowers beyond the imagination of our ancestors. It's been a tremendously fast transformation from a sort of pre-computing civilization to what we are now. And we're sort of in this transitionary phase between being a pre-computing civilization to a post-computing civilization. Here's just a few pictures of scattered around of the last 80 years, and you can just imagine how different people's lives were at various different moments here in this progression. And you can sort of start thinking about the future and how different your lives will be decade over decade over decade as computing continues to increase and grow and become part of our species. Today, we live in a world where billions of humans and trillions of devices cooperate and work together to co-compute in a sense. All kinds of interactions and operations happen. And we are living in a super deeply interconnected world where all kinds of transactions and moments either happen offline and happen as flows of information between us, or happen online and as flows of information over computers. And you can think of all of the ways in which computers over time are gaining deeper access and deeper, they're getting into different privileged positions in all our interactions. Most of human activity tends to be assisted by computers now, and the internet is constantly granting us new superpowers. So we live in this fantastic, amazing world where the internet has become this amazing superpower granting machine where you get new superpowers delivered to you through your phone or through your computer in the form of an app or a web page. And as an individual, you can acquire all of these new amazing superpowers that are being created all the time. And you can gain the ability to speak to people around the planet. You can broadcast to thousands of people. You can write in shared documents. You can watch videos. You can create videos and broadcast those. You can assemble the world's best encyclopedia and continue to update it. You can model all kinds of difficult scientific problems and work with them with other people. It's really tremendous what we've been able to achieve. And the most special thing of this entire system is that it's actually quite easy to grant other people superpowers. All you have to do is to think of how your superpower would take form in the shape of an application or a web page, and to program that application or web page and to deploy it to the internet. And if you or a group of people with you manage to do that, you can now grant a superpower to the rest of humanity. And so that's like the extremely special thing about the internet. It's that level of ease of superpower granting. Now, there's a bit of a difficult piece here, which is that the current architecture of the web and the current architecture of the internet has all kinds of flaws and problems with how the information for those superpowers is stored and distributed. There's all kinds of flaws and problems with who has access to that information, who might delete that information, who might be able to change that information without you knowing, and so on, who might prevent you to access really vital and valuable information. So there's all kinds of important rights that come in when you think about information. Now, this is about to get dramatically harder. We're building new kinds of interfaces to computing, things like augmented reality and virtual reality, and now brain-machine interfaces and so on. And this is setting aside all the kind of AI level kind of improvements. So the next decades in computing are going to be truly as transformative as the last few decades, and perhaps more. We might consider them to be more transformative. So when we sit here and we in 2020 and we look back at the 80-year history that brought us here, and we try to sort of project where we're going to be in another 80 years, it becomes extremely difficult to know when and how these different pieces of technology are going to land. But what becomes very clear is that the properties that those technologies should have, and the properties of the information that those technologies should have, better be having our best interests in the core. And we really should be fixing the kinds of problems that exist today, so that when these vastly more powerful forms of computing arrive, we actually have we're actually able to count with them and not be exposed to all kinds of vulnerabilities because of them. So this is where Web3 comes in. So Web3 is a kind of the latest iteration of the web, and it is a system it's a group of techniques and applications and distributed systems that bring verifiability to the web. So by adding with a whole bunch of cryptographic techniques and game theory techniques and so on, we've been able to introduce verifiability to all kinds of interactions and transactions that were previously not verifiable, where you really needed to trust the individuals or the groups of people behind the transaction or running the transaction. So being able to trust math and trusting cryptography instead of people is what enables us to build systems that we can rely on in the long term that aren't going to break in some terrible way underneath us. And so Web3 has a number of values associated with it. There are things like freedom of speech or freedom of assembly, being able to securely communicate around the world, being able to control data and have self-sovereign data, be able to have the ability to transact together, being able to have secure money and so on, being able to work without relying on some kind of central control operator and things like that. There's a lot of different versions of these Web3 values. This is just my take on them. A lot of other people have different views. But some of the core things are common, which is that we really need to establish a secure communications infrastructure around the planet. And one of the great things about this whole Web3 world is that we created this ability to incentivize the distribution of computing resources using cryptocurrency. And so that's, of course, at the heart of Filecoin, at the heart of Bitcoin, and at the heart of Ethereum, and so many of the innovations of Web3. And so together, things like the decentralized web innovations, blockchain systems, and linked data form this sort of Web3 oriented system. And so that brings me to Filecoin, which is a project to create a decentralized, efficient, and robust foundation for humanity's information. That's a mouthful, and it's also an extremely difficult mission. It'll take us a long time to really achieve this. But today we stand on a fantastic milestone where we can now look back and see the launch of Filecoin and the beginning of the network behind us. And we can look ahead and we can think of the growth of the network and the utility and the usage of the network as the challenge ahead. Filecoin is a large-scale system. It's like many layer 1 blockchains. It's a highly complex system that combines a blockchain with a distributed network system with all kinds of peer-to-peer networking in order to create an open service where various different groups of people can come together and provide a system, provide a service to the broader world together. And so there's all kinds of complex subsystems and pieces that add up to what Filecoin is. And we really are in a fantastic moment where Filecoin is live, and that's a phenomenal moment to be able to look at the network and see. This is a snapshot of the stats of the network. We are at the very top. You can see the consensus, the blocks in the consensus. You can see that there's 602 petabytes of storage, which is a truly gargantuan amount of storage. And you can see a whole bunch of the other stats. You can also explore a whole bunch of you can look at many different chain explorers, and you can see their different view of the same data in the same network, and so on. You can see all kinds of stats about the network, and you can see the actual blocks coming in and transactions flowing and so on. So it's not easy to build a blockchain, and so it's really great to be in a world where we now have a publicly deployed network and it's live and working. It's also starting to accumulate a number of interesting data sets. We have the Slingshot competition in order to gather a whole bunch of valuable data sets and add them to the network, and that's ongoing. And perhaps I want to give a huge thanks and kudos to all of the Filecoin miners who have been building out the capacity of the Filecoin network, building out a whole bunch of storage facilities around the world, and putting a lot of that hardware together to provide this service. And here's a snapshot of a lot of the organizations involved with that. Also, I want to thank a lot of the communities that have gathered and built out the broader Filecoin community over the last few years. It's been fantastic to be working on a project with so many people involved and interested in using it and interested in its success. So thank you so much to all of the people around the world that have been building communities and working with other folks and spreading the word about Filecoin and the technology and how it can be used and so on. And also a huge thanks to all of the developers and groups who have been working on various different parts of the network. There's a lot of different groups that are developing software to work with Filecoin in one way or another, whether it's tooling or services or other kinds of systems. And this is a really phenomenal ecosystem of developers that are working all around Filecoin. You'll hear more about this in the next talk. And I want to give a special shout out to all of the developers and hackers who've been building applications on Filecoin. Here's a snapshot of all of the ETH Global or a lot of the ETH Global hacks that happened, I think, a month and a half ago or so. I look forward to the next hackathon that we might do, and I would love to see a whole new wave of these kinds of applications. I'm really excited and proud to point out that a number of these folks went on to build out their application for real and for the long term. They have progressed from being kind of hackathon hacks and so on to now being services that people plan to run in the long term. So good luck to all of those folks. And this is a great moment to now turn to all of the applications that I've been building in IPFS for the last few years, and remark that now that Filecoin is live today, we can go to a lot of these applications and we can take the hashes that represent those data sets or those web front ends and so on, or those different kinds of applications, and we can now back up all of that data onto Filecoin. And so Filecoin can become a way to back up and distribute the data for all of these applications. And so the one sort of the next phase of the network is to go and do that, to go and bring a lot of these applications over to Filecoin. I'm also extremely proud to have an incredibly talented group of designers and product people and product builders in the Filecoin network. This is just one of the applications that's being built out around Filecoin. It's called Slate, and you can see just the beautiful design around it. It's a really phenomenal product. And what I loved about Slate is just that when you use it, you can't tell that it's a Web3 application, and that I think is the bar that we have to hit. The entire space, the entire Web3 space right now, mostly works for finance-oriented applications or for applications where developers are willing to go through and jump through all kinds of hoops to achieve certain kinds of things that are really powerful, but very hard to use. And so the Web3 has not crossed the chasm to the broader world in terms of consumer applications, and it's applications like Slate that can pave the road can show us how it's done, and can really get Web3 to cross the chasm. So Colin, from whom you'll hear soon, really would like to be at a point where Web3 has crossed the chasm. We'll see when exactly that happens. But I really look forward to Slate as being one of the leaders in that charge. And I encourage all of the other developers in the Web3 space that are hearing this or participating in Filecoin to get together and talk about product and talk about design and talk about getting to that super high quality level of product that is required in order for most people in the world to use a system. So the challenge ahead for us is to, now that we have built out a large amount of capacity in the network, is to turn towards the applications and start adding a lot of valuable, useful data and make this market work. So thanks to the block reward, we have not had to build out this market in kind of at the same time and kind of growing the market in both sides. We have been able to just focus on one side, the capacity side, and just grow that out for quite a while. But now it's time that we turn our attention to growing the demand side of the market. And so that's where the whole network and their different connections and relationships to all kinds of applications will come in handy. Definitely miners want a lot of useful, valuable storage from all of these folks. Definitely a lot of these applications want to back up their data and their applications with low cost and in a resilient way, and hopefully in a crypto native way. And so this is a perfect, this is the stage is set for this to happen. And so this will be the coming months. Also want to remind everyone to kind of think about the whole economic structure of Filecoin and to remember that Filecoin is a large group of people that succeed together or fail together. Though there's a lot of internal competition in the system, and that's a key part of any kind of blockchain and open service system. At the end of the day, together the network provides a service to the outside world, and you can think of that as a whole integrated economy that together is providing that larger scale service. And really think about like the different stages of optimization for the network. We're very much in stage one, where we're building capacity. We're optimizing a lot of the flows of the product. We're getting to, we have basic retrieval and so on, but we don't yet have very efficient retrieval and so on. And we have a lot of different qualities that over time the network has to improve and in order to get to an extremely high quality of service. So of course, this is a long road. No large scale system has ever been built in a short time. The cloud of today took in the order of 10, 15 years to build out into its full scale. We can catch up, and we can try to catch up really quickly. Certainly, we've amassed in a very short time a truly staggering amount of storage that many people would have never guessed would have appeared. But that said, getting to an extremely high quality product will take a while, and getting to an excellent quality of service for the users will take a while. So the big thing here is, as participants in the Filecoin network, whether you're a developer or a miner or a client, it's really all about the user experience of the client. The service is Filecoin as a service is trying to sell storage to clients, and clients will choose whatever is best for them, and will choose with their wallets. And so if Filecoin is not worth their time and worth their money and so on, then Filecoin in the long term will not succeed. So as a group, as a whole network, I encourage you to try your best to provide an excellent quality of service. And if you do, you'll the incentive structures of the system will grant you a higher reward than other folks. I want to give you 3 challenges and 3 pieces of advice today. So challenge number 1 is that I challenge you to bring deeply valuable data to the network. So this is the next stage in development for Filecoin. I challenge all of you to seek valuable data sets that Filecoin could or should back up. I challenge you to seek clients who would be great customers for the Filecoin network, and recruit them to the network by telling them about Filecoin, telling them about technology, and encourage them to try it out. And to kind of seed see the ideas, I'll walk you through a few different slides that I showed at the Slingshot opening. So there's all kinds of open access large scientific data that you could encourage. There's all kinds of open access scientific papers that have extremely valuable resources. There's all kinds of music systems. By the way, of course, do all of this with proper licensing and proper structure. Audius is an amazing candidate to start with. They already use IPFS. They could be using Filecoin right away. Think of other bodies of work that have open access music. Think about Web3 application data that right now is using Ethereum and IPFS and perhaps AWS as the backend, but now really should be just switching to Filecoin. Think of the IPFS applications as a whole and thinking of which ones you use or which ones you like that you might want to bring over to Filecoin. Or if you're a developer of one of those, consider doing that yourself. Think of the large collections of archives that are out there. There's all kinds of really valuable and useful data. Think also of developer assets. It turns out that if a system starts optimizing for developers, you enter an extremely fast feedback loop, and you manage to build something that's extremely useful to many other kinds of groups of developers in many other industries. So perhaps by bringing in VMs or containers and so on to Filecoin, you might be really perfecting the flow of the product. Think of other kinds of things like video. Think of DTube and other resources that have open access video and so on that might be good fits, or go and convince a business that distributes video that perhaps they should be storing their data with Filecoin. Think of games. Games at the end of the day are a huge part of computing and a huge part of what got so many people into computers and the internet. And lots of these games are either fully open source or are racking up very large bills in storing and distributing data. So they are great targets to be customers of the Filecoin network. You can also think of building game asset libraries where if a lot of the data is now on IPFS and Filecoin, then incremental games that might refer to those same assets would then share the data storage, and you would get this amazing kind of economy of scale that happens with these kinds of shared libraries of resources. There's a whole line of thinking around Filecoin and systems like Filecoin around being able to have different applications sharing data stores and sharing ranges of data. And this is a great example of something that you might do. And perhaps think about virtual world data. So things like decentralized and cryptovoxels and so on. Those are great systems that we should be getting to. You should also consider bringing the world of NFTs to Filecoin. So all of these resources need to persist for the long term. They need to be able to be backed up verifiably in the long term and need to be served quickly and so on. So NFTs are a great, a big part of the whole crypto economy that's emerging, and they present a really good use case. And you should also consider just going to the other blockchains and saying, hey, look, we have this massive amount of capacity, so why don't we just back up the other blockchains on Filecoin? So I think it would be a phenomenal result if we can take things like Bitcoin, Ethereum, and really all the blockchains and just back up all of their data in Filecoin. So imagine, what kind of a leg up Filecoin would get in the ecosystem if everybody using other blockchains was downloading their blockchain from Filecoin. Then also think about open access photo archives. At the end of the day, photos are one of the biggest things that humans end up doing, taking photos and looking at photos. There are these massive archives of both open access photos or business photos that various corporations would like to store cheaply. So go and pursue potentially these. All right, that's it on challenge number 1. So now challenge number 2. I challenge you to build a new application on Filecoin Tech. So this is for all the developers out there or people that would like to try developing. We have a whole suite and range of amazing developer tools. The folks from Textile and Fleek and a number of other of other groups have been working to perfect a lot of the applications or the suite of applications around developing tech with Filecoin. And now it's really a phenomenal time to build a Web3 application. So if you want to help Web3 cross the chasm, consider building something like Slate, consider building a consumer product or a developer tool or something like that, and build an application that uses Filecoin. So that's my challenge number 2 for you. And challenge number 3 is to make Filecoin yours. So at the end of the day, all blockchains, for them to truly succeed in a public environment, they must be systems that where the community feels a very strong sense of ownership. And today we have a lot of groups that feel a very strong sense of ownership over Filecoin now. We have the 100+ developer organizations around the ecosystem. We have the hundreds of miner organizations. We have really thousands of people that have been interacting together around this network. And this network is yours. But now today, we probably have another many thousands or potentially tens of thousands of people that are interacting with Filecoin in some way. So really get involved. Think of ways where you can either contribute to the code or contribute to the discussions, and really treat Filecoin as your network. Because it is. At the end of the day, Filecoin is a public blockchain now. It is the internet's. It is everybody's. So now you're really using your ownership comes with some sets of responsibilities and so on to the community, and really engage in those. Think of ways to become a leader in the project. Think of ways to participate in maybe Filecoin improvement proposals if you have great ideas. Think of ways to move us forward, to create ideas, or to generate some new directions. And if you would like to kind of paint a vision of how various leaders in the network could make Filecoin theirs, on Friday we'll have like a track of short talks that people can give where they can paint a vision for what they think Filecoin should be in the long term. So really encourage you to make Filecoin yours in whatever way you want, and to really engage with this community in whatever way you find best. So I'm extremely proud to be in this point in this day after to be in this milestone, in this new beginning after many years of work, but now looking ahead to the next stages. And I couldn't be prouder to be sharing that with just such an amazing group of people that have come together to build this. So this is all of the people that have worked on Filecoin have done so with a lot of effort and care and love, and we're giving it to you now. So if you weren't part of Filecoin before, now you are. If you were making it before, now bring it to more people. Great. So that's it for my challenges. So now I have some advice for you. So number 1 is to build something people want. So this is perhaps the most important lesson that I learned at YC and that I learned about building products. The thing you make has to be something that people want. You might build something that you want, or you might build something that a small group of people want. But when you find something that is extremely good and that people like using and they like building on and so on, then magic happens. At that point, that product is going to grow and be adopted by a lot of people. If you go and build out a product and so on, and people aren't really liking it that much and not wanting it that much, it'll likely fail. So for everybody building tools or systems around Filecoin, and for the people actually building and contributing to Filecoin implementations or the protocol and so on, really focus on building something people want. Make sure that the thing that you're making is something that people will want to use, will want to pay for, will want to develop on, and so on. The details matter. The user experience matters a lot. So really focus on building something people want. The second piece of advice that I want to give you is to think long-term. Filecoin is here for the long term, not for the short term. It's already, I've been, in some form or another in this journey. I've been here working towards this for 6 years. Many other people have been working on this in 1, 2, 3 years. And when you think about the mission, it's a very long-term mission. We're not going to achieve that in a short time. And when you think about data storage and data storage as a service, what clients want is long-term reliability. They want their data to be there 6 months from now, a year from now, 5 years from now. If you think of all of the photos that you take with your family or all of your important documents, you don't want them to be around for a day or two. You want them to be around for months and years. So the whole network, in order to succeed, must orient towards thinking long-term. Short-term thinking is really not going to succeed very much in Filecoin. And also remember that the best projects take many years to grow into their own. This is, for many of us that have been working on this for a long time, this might feel like, some kind of like finish line, but it's really not. It's just a gate to the future. It's a new beginning. It's a transitionary period. And I want to kind of reflect on the fact that many important projects and systems not only took many years to get somewhere, but in that period, many people laughed those systems out of the room. In a sense, Bitcoin at the beginning was treated like a ridiculous thing. Nobody really, or very few people really wanted to use it. Everyone kind of laughed at the system and the structure and whatnot. So it wasn't going to be a super successful thing if people weren't thinking long term. And the same thing happened for Ethereum. Ethereum was laughed out of rooms as just a science project for many years. I remember going to talk to people in very high up places about how important and valuable Ethereum was and how interesting and of a network it was, and they were just sort of disregarding it. Nowadays, those same people are extreme Ethereum proponents and are now really strong participants in the Ethereum economy. And these kinds of things take time. In some cases, it takes many years. And remember that the best applications on Ethereum were made 1, 2, maybe 3 years after the network began, right? So the different waves of success in Ethereum came over many years. So think long term. Think of building applications over months and years. Don't think about it as like days or weeks. Of course, when you build something, you want to go quickly and you want to prototype quickly and get something out there and fail fast and all that. But really think of how the network as a whole is gonna move and develop over the large time scale. And really remember that the best is yet to come. With a lot of these systems, they go through all kinds of important moments, but at the end of the day, they develop and blossom thanks to their communities over many years. And if I know that a lot of people come into the blockchain networks because, hey, there's money to be made and there's kind of like a short-term payout perspective. And a lot of those people right now are having a really hard time with Filecoin because Filecoin is not designed for them. And they're having a hard time thinking about the economics of Filecoin and it doesn't feel right and so on. And it's really because Filecoin is not designed for short-term thinking or short-term value output. Filecoin is designed for long-term. Filecoin is designed for long-term data storage and data storage services. And so the people that are going to succeed the most with Filecoin are people that are able to really think of that long-term and really able to commit to the network and commit to provide those services, commit to actually be a good counterparty for clients. And those are the ones that the Filecoin protocol is designed to incentivize. Great. The last piece of advice is be resilient. Building blockchains is extremely hard. Hard moments will come. The network is now live. The network is yours. All kinds of things will occur. Software is not perfect. Software fails. Networks fail. Other groups attack you. All kinds of things are gonna happen. So as a community, we need to be very resilient. Think of life. Think of the tree of life and all of the different forms of life that are extremely resilient to their environment and adapt over time to take on challenges and to shift as problems come. There will be, in any kind of blockchain environment, there will be constant FUD. There will be attacks from various groups that want us to fail. There will be groups who want to take advantage of us or want to use us to take advantage of somebody else. There will be dissent and disagreements on community decisions. Those, of course, will be the hardest because now it's not an outside group attacking us, but it's rather some very contentious sets of decisions within our community. And that'll be those will be hard moments that will require leadership. And I urge you to make Filecoin yours by being a leader in those moments and helping the community move forward in whatever way that turns out to be. And come what may, remember that in the end, our values as a community are what unite us, and the technology is just an expression of those values and a system that's running and so on. But it's all up to the community of humans that are working together, the community of organizations that are working together to build this network and build it in the long term. All right, I think if I go any further, I will take more of Colin's time. So I will stop here. I unfortunately won't have time for questions, but I'll answer the Q&A after I pass it off to Colin. Thank you so much. I really couldn't be prouder to be here with you. I have dreamed of this moment for many, many, many years. I'm sure that many of you have, and we're finally here. I look forward to hanging out with you throughout the week. You'll probably see me here and there in various days. And I'll also be hanging out in the Gather room or AirMeet. So come hang out, come tell me your Filecoin story, and I look forward to hearing from your visions on Friday.